Hey, good evening, everybody, and this is our live masterclass, live down under. And I wanted to invite all my friends from Australia. I wanted to do it at 10 a.m. their time, so it's 7 p.m. my time. Looks like my camera might be a little bit smudged, so I'm just going to clean it off really quick. Okay, let's see. Who do we have in here? Hi to Nicholas Reed, Sergio Horn Cosby, Amber K. How you doing, Amber? All right, here's Morton Music. Here as our first guest, Alex Morton. Going live with Alex from New Zealand, and I met him when he was studying at ANAM, Australian National Academy of Music. And Alex took me on a bike ride around Melbourne, and it was one of the craziest. Hey, remember that? I was telling them the story of that bike ride. How you doing, man?
Hi, David. Hello. I still have nightmares about that bike ride, David.
So I can't see you and not recall that story of the time that we went all the way around Melbourne. I was on tour with the Hong Kong Philharmonic at that point, and we did this bike ride that whole day. I don't know how many kilometers is it, like 40 kilometers or something like that around Melbourne?
I beg your pardon?
How many kilometers around Melbourne is it?
30 or 40, I think.
Okay, 30 or 40, yeah. And then we were just ripping around that path, and somehow, we ended up having like a collision, and I had these disc brakes, like these disc brakes that super nice bikes at ANAM. I slammed on the disc brakes and I just did a Superman over the handlebars, and I tumbled and rolled like a stunt man, and then I picked myself up and dusted myself off, and I just walked around. I was like, all right, I'm good. Let's just get back on the bike. You're like,
let's keep going.
You're like, you're bleeding. I was like, I know, let's ride.
It was so stressful, mate. And then you went and played Milo 1 that night. Couldn't believe it.
Oh, man. That was a tough one. Hey, can play after anything, right?
I beg your pardon?
Can you turn your volume up a little bit, or do you want me to try to join the Wi-Fi? Maybe that might help. Wi-Fi? Maybe that might help. Hey, bravo. Hey, you sound like $1 million, Alex. Seriously. Wow. I haven't heard you in a couple years now, and man, it's really, really nice playing. Really smooth, really beautiful sound. So one of the things that I think about with this excerpt is how many times do we have dum ba bum? I think that happens about 5 times, right?
Yeah.
If you count the dum da da dum da dum ba ba dum, right? That happens 5 times. So my question is, how do we make those different? That's something as a musician. Not just a horn player, right? The technical aspect of this is easy. It's fine. And what I love is just that you have these really nice long phrases. You're not just stopping at the breath. You keep going through the breath, and you're going all the way to the next line, right? So then you start the next phrase. So how many bars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bar phrases. So you're getting tons of hearts here, man. Everyone loves your playing. So what I would ask is maybe put a little thought into the first time. Do you want to do a crescendo into the B? Do you want all those notes to be the two F sharps, or sorry, written Gs? Do you want those to be the same dynamic? Or do you want
No.
them to be a crescendo into the written C and then a little diminuendo? Or what's your plan there? And then could you do something different on the next time that happens? So the way that when I did it, I thought of the first one as being a crescendo. So those first three notes, first note is a little bit less, second note's a little bit more, and then the third note is the most. And then I'm going through that written C to the next and then I decrescendo. And then the next time that happens, I think of this a little bit more like a decrescendo because there's the hairpin written in. So that's kind of so I want to make, when I see a crescendo in the music, I want to start with a decrescendo before the crescendo written in, because I want to give them some room to grow on those crescendos.
Yeah.
So let's think of the second time as dum ba da 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 da. So maybe a little bit of like a longer crescendo to that written G, and then you can start the crescendo da 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 da, and stay strong until you have the da 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 da, and then here really come down to piano. Da, da,
Sure.
da, da. You want to just try that, maybe those 16 bars?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's really top notch. And I love how you made that diminuendo right before the written hairpin. It really made that hairpin kind of like, you highlighted that hairpin a little bit more. And one thing I really want to point out that you're doing that not a lot of people do is you're really playing a really clear 16th note. You're not going da da da. You're going da 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 da. You have a really good teacher. Whoever your teacher was who worked with you on this really, really instilled in you really nice subdivisions. One thing that I might, if I was, splitting hairs, right?
Please.
I would love to hear just a little bit of lift on those, those slurred notes with the dots underneath, the portamento. Tum,
Sure.
tum. And I always think of that almost like the written D, right, is going to the written G. So I always think of it as like a brush stroke with a bow. Hum. So it's almost like I'm phrasing to that written G.
Yeah.
You want to just try that, the first 4 bars or something?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Exactly. And so you can even do a tiny bit less than that. Sorry, my horn's cold. Let me just push in a little bit. Sorry.
It's all right.
So you see how I'm
Mm.
like doing a little diminuendo and I make the illusion of a little space, right? So a
Yeah.
little diminuendo and then a little bit of a clearer tongue on that D. And it sounds like it's lifted. We're making the illusion of a separation, but we
Yeah.
never stop our air.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you want to just try that? Those two
Sure.
notes, and just do a decrescendo on the written E, and then a stronger tongue on the D. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you're always
Mm.
making that illusion of like the separation or that illusion of the lift without stopping the air. I liken it
Yeah.
to I liken it to a Prius, right? So if we're driving a Prius, right, they're really great cars, for saving gas. And what they do, how they save gas, when you go up to a stop sign, you hit that stop sign, and the engine just goes, it just stops. And then when
Yeah.
you hit the gas again, when you're ready to go, then it starts up again. So imagine like that's our lip, right? Our lip is always moving like a motor. We're always keeping it vibrating. But the second we stop our air, then the air cuts off, right? And then we have to start that motor again. And it's that jarring start of the motor. So if you restart, if you take the air off and then you start it again, that's two motions that we're actually creating there. And there's more of a variable which could lead us to miss that note after the stop of the air. The restart is something that's a little bit dangerous for when we restart because we're not sure if we're going to have the right airspeed or the right lip tension to actually hit that note when we come back in with the air starting. So what I tend to do is I tend to make the illusion of stopping that airstream, but I'm like my motor's still idling, and then I just give a little pop to the front of the note, which momentarily stops the air, but it doesn't stop it long enough for the lip to stop vibrating. So you're making
Still
that
turning over.
Yeah, you're making
Yeah.
more of an illusion of stopping that note and then a clear thing. It works really well in big halls when you want to make that fast staccato stuff. Let's keep going, and so now we've got this phrase dum ba da. So this is the heroic part, right? Dum ba da, and it's mezzo forte with a crescendo. So louder than mezzo forte. It's mezzo forte plus. And so when we keep going, dum ba da 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 dee ta ya da da dee. So the diminuendo really is on the written C in that fourth bar, right? Third bar.
Yeah.
So what I would love to hear is, in order to make that diminuendo come out, let's play the written B a little bit louder. And then in order to make this crescendo happen, again, let's do the same thing that we did with the hairpin. Before the crescendo, we'll make a little diminuendo. Dum, ba, da, 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 dee, da, dee, da, da. And you can give a little space before that piano just to really almost draw the listener's breath away, and then you drop the dynamic. It's like you pull the rug out from under them. You're like, nope, I'm going to just play really soft.
Yeah.
And then you can take your time, and I always subdivide those from us. And then I reset, breathe, and depending on the tempo, if you could do that last phrase in one breath, that would be impressive, but you don't have to. So go ahead. Let's just start from bar 17, pickups to bar 17.
Sure.
Yeah. Nice, bravo, man, bravo. So that's some ideas on how to approach this. You know, most importantly, the 16th, not a 32nd, which you do really well, and then of course, just making differences of those different dum ba dum bum ba dum bum ba dum.
Yeah.
Happens 5 times. So bravo. Let's. I think we have time for Beethoven 7. So let's hear that. If you
Right.
want, do you want to do some Beethoven 7?
Always. Always,
Excellent.
mate.
Let's give a couple quick shout outs here. We've got Argus from Dallas, Texas. We've got Hugo from Costa Rica. Let's see. We've got, is that Omri Barak. Hey, Omri. And I know, of course, Amber K says amazing job. Um, Arna says gorgeous, babe. So,
I might know her.
I think you got a fan. And then Ben Jackson, of course, is watching. So awesome. Hey, Luis. Hola.
Hey, Ben.
Hola. So this is Luis, I think, from as well. There's Seb as well. Is Seb done?
Ready?
Yeah. I mean, man, that's first rate. That's really tops. Listen, yeah, it's really nice to hear all these things that normally I would really want to fix, like so well executed. So
Thanks.
one of the things that I really like about it, number one, you didn't overblow it, right? There's a tendency for some players to just really paste this one to the wall. And again, we have to remember that Beethoven is still in the classical period, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like considered like romantic, but it's still classical period. So at the same time that this was composed, I mean, pieces like Mendelssohn, were still being played, so it's still light. Um, the rhythm, you really executed the rhythm well, and I think that rhythm is hard to make happen, especially in that register. Bum, da 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 da. So when I talk about practicing this, I always talk about practicing it with subdivisions. And I practice it down the octave. So, and you can also take out the 16th note and just go da, da ta, da ta, da da, da dia, da da, da da, da da, da da ya da da. And then, of course, the first time this happens, da dun, da dun, da da ya da da. That time, and then the next time, da dun, da da dun, da 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 ya da da. We do the second one a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you get a
Yeah.
really nice subito piano. I mean, just really, really great. If I was splitting hairs, I would say you could give us a little bit more of a lead up to it, right? So when you lead up to it, I would always think a little bit more contained for an audition. So I wouldn't overblow that because I mean it's easy to do, right? But
Sure. This is
like
before the pause? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, keep it not orchestral volume, but keep it like audition volume. They're two different volumes, right? So orchestral volume, we'd give a little sizzle to it. On when we're solo in the front of the stage for an audition, we might kind of reserve the sizzle for maybe one or two moments. So the other thing that I usually work on when I'm doing this in practice for myself is I make sure I play this with the drone, the key of A, right? Just so I know, like, okay, what part of the chord am I? So that obviously the B is going to be the fifth, so we're going to be a little, we want to be a little higher for our fifth, and then the A, we're going to want to be like a little bit lower with the fourth. So I usually play that on open thumb valve,
Right.
or I really lip it down on the thumb one and two, and
Yeah.
then thumb two and three. That's going to be a sharp combination, so I have to really lip that down. So like maybe thumb open would be good for that high A, and thumb two. I don't know how you're fingering it, but those
Yeah.
are some, and it's also a little bit easier than doing some of those cross fingerings. That's kind of a hint, but it works really well. It's written for the A horn, and it works in that A horn mentality. Maybe the first time you play this, let's do a little bit more shapes, right? Like let's think now
Yeah.
more phrasing wise. Which note are you going, and which note are you coming away from? So I would always say dum. I would dum ba dum dum, and then I come back da dum da dum ba da dee ba da dum ba da dee da dum da da ya da dum. Right, and then we're phrasing here da dum ba dum da 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 ya da da. Another longer phrase da dum da dum da 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 ya da 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 da. Right,
Yeah.
so we're going to that downbeat of the second bar of those 95, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to the bar 100 downbeat, right? So
Yeah.
maybe I'll just demonstrate. Let's see how this goes. Sorry, I'll just one So see how I'm kind of giving some shapes and not just like kind of barreling through it. We
Yeah.
can still make really nice
Definitely.
music on this excerpt. So give it one more try and just think vocal, think singing, think celebration. This is the celebration character. Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, at least we're in good company, man.
Yeah.
You're just missing it to make me feel good now. So I appreciate that.
I see what you mean about it felt much better doing those A's open.
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
little bit lower for that pitch. And if you check it with the drone, it's just one of those things where you'll find that it really rings a little bit better in tune with the A. Man, Alex, you sound like $1,000,000. Do you want to play it again, or do you want to end now? Because I mean, you sound fantastic. It's been amazing.
One more try.
Yes.
One more run.
I love your attitude, man. Thank you. All right. Hey man, this has been a lot of fun. And honestly,
Yeah.
like those high B's for me, like it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Oh, all right. So it's never about like perfection. It's always about progress. And this is like one of those things that like I'm so glad I get to hear you play. After not hearing you for 3 years, because like you just sound like you're like right at the top level, man. There's not much to fix.
Thank you, David.
So,
A big compliment. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. It's so good to see you, my brother. Big hugs. And let's have
Likewise.
Freya join if Freya's watching.
See you, mate. We'll talk
See you
soon.
later. Cheers.
Bye.
All right. We're adding Freya. Hey, Freya, how are you?
Hey, good
Hey,
morning.
nice to meet you. Good
Nice
morning.
to meet you too.
Yeah. Hey, so this is our first time ever meeting and first time ever
Yeah.
playing for one another. So, I mean, I really appreciate you stepping up. I know this is like, it's a little bit nerve wracking sometimes to play on, like, for a new person, especially like over the internet and in public, but it's really great to meet you and I really appreciate your willingness. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
absolutely. What would you like to play?
The first page of Adagio and Allegro is what
Perfect.
I've been assigned.
That works really well.
Okay. Am I keep going through? Yeah.
that was some really, really terrific playing. Seriously. No, I mean, some really beautiful musical moments, and I love your sound. I love your slurs. Yeah, so much great stuff going on. I think for me, the biggest thing in this is that there's just no place to, number one, like take a break. So it feels like a lot
Yeah.
on the face, like endurance wise. So I need to figure out like where am I going to break, take a rest. And sometimes one of the places I take a rest can be in the middle low register stuff. When I used to play for Dale Clevenger, he would always talk about anything below a third space C would be like kind of the notes that he could kind of relax and just let the pressure do the job. So he would just push into his lips and he would just like keep everything here, like not, super engaged. Just the minimal amount of effort to really like work. So like that stuff at like C would be a good example of where you could take kind of a little break, and then where it goes later on at Was Ruhiger at F, letter F. That's where I kind of relax and just let myself. It's the middle of the second page. Just,
Yeah.
that stuff. Um, so I just kind of like push in and then just like just like kind of like let everything just go and just relax. So then there's the other part too. Where do we breathe?
Yeah.
So the cellos have it easy on this because they don't have to necessarily breathe so much, but it sounds better on the horn, right? So we gotta treat this like a singer, and around B is when it starts to get tricky for me. Rehearsal B. Um, I'm singing the wrong key. So I would breathe. I noticed a lot of breaths, um, like frequent breaths, and so I love to have planned breaths that weren't necessarily so frequent. So after that low B flat, that written B flat, I breathe. I breathe before that, and then keep going. And then I really set that up. And normally I don't try to breathe on bar lines, but it seems to be a good spot for me to kind of break the phrase and for me to have some air before I go into those pedal notes. And bravo, those sounded fantastic. Like people were sending tons of hearts. They love your low notes, love your high notes too. But yeah, so and then moving forward, I kind of push the tempo a little bit. So let me show you. So you can help yourself along by kind of pushing the tempo a little bit there through some of that slower stuff, and then it won't be so dreadfully kind of painful. Do you want to try maybe some of the stuff at B and go for longer times and playing your breaths a little bit?
Okay.
Awesome. That's good. So where I would two before C, I would push that tempo just a little bit on those. So the half note and then the four quarters and then the half note, and then so it's like kind of that rob Peter to pay Paul, right? So you're going to push a little bit there. And I think when I was a younger player, I often wanted to make music by just taking rubato. And I think part of making music is like learning when to make rubato and when to do a cello rondo. And so it's kind of that art of push me, pull you, rob Peter, pay Paul. So that's one of the spots. And then you did such a nice, rubato, which actually means to steal in Italian. You actually did a really nice rubato in that. Yeah, it was really, really, really nice. I really loved that. And then at C again, you could just really push the tempo, feel it in two. So just try that one more time, four before C, and let's see if we can get that tempo just a little bit, a little bit more moving, a little bit more motion, and then you have more room to kind of do the rubato, and then C, and feel it in two. Okay, good. So, for me, I would try to avoid that breath at the second bar of C at all costs.
I've really run out by then.
Yeah, and if you could just, like even if you're like blue in the face, you just have like a tiny little bit of air left in your lungs. See if you can really and especially that two before C, right? You can take all the time in the world because the piano's not playing with you, right? So you can just tank up, right? Fill the four corners of your lungs. Like really make sure you're filling down, by your, down here. Sorry, I don't know if you can see me down here and then up here. So you can see my whole rib cage expand.
Yeah.
So that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about the Russian Furyk, right? So I loved the tempo. I thought that's good. Again, the breathing, we could pick a couple spots to breathe. And the tonguing, I felt like it was just a little bit too interruptive. So when you articulate, I hear this clear front to all the tongue, to all the notes, this clear articulation. But what happens is the tongue is stopping the airstream, and it's also getting heavy. It's getting a little bit it's slowing things down. So this is one where I think of it as like almost like a brush stroke with a bow, and I think just a little like a TH or a D on my articulations. So and then where I breathe, I definitely breathe before the G. Breathe here. Breathe here. See if you can go. Yeah, I would see if you can go from the G all the way to the rests. So let me show you what I mean. So if you can keep it light, and you don't have to go so loud, right? This is again, this isn't classical. This is like Schumann. And so imagine skipping through the field like on a bright sunny day through the flowers, right? That's this piece. It's the complete opposite to the first half. Excellent, excellent. When you do those lower notes, how do you go about spitting those out? Because when I get to those, I'm usually pretty tight here, and so I mean, it's kind of a combination of like, okay, getting the F horn, if I can get into the F horn and really get some air into it, or if I'm doing the B horn and get some like clarity. So
Okay.
what I do is I do the first two notes, the E flat and the G, the written E flat and the written G on F horn, da da da, and then I go B flat horn, G on F horn, da 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 da, or I can do all those three on sorry, excuse me, I do those three on that triplet. So C, E flat, G on the B flat horn, just to kind of pop those out, especially when I'm tight and I'm a little bit out of air. Would you just try it? And then again, that brush stroke. Da 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 da. Yeah. Good. And you can even take a little bit of a lift at the end of the E flat, so it'll help you get set for that low C. Da 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 da. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so you're that way the lower notes really pop out because they're in this register that's not going to sound quite as loud as the one before it. Bravo. Excellent, excellent playing. Do you have any questions?
No, that was all good.
Hey, you sound fantastic. Really nice to work with you, Freya. Thank you again for playing for us. And really nice to meet you. I hope I meet you in person someday. But keep practicing. Really,
I
bravo.
will.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Tim, you're up. Mr. Tim. So we have one more student, and he's going to play the Weber Concertino, I think. Okay, let's see where Tim is. We're just waiting for Tim. Aha, there we go. Going live now with Tim. Tim, I'm just pulling up your part. Let's see. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, such a pleasure to meet you. Are you playing the concertino?
Yeah, sure am.
Hey, good on you for learning that, man. Where do you? We don't have time to hear all of it. I'd love to hear most of it or some of it. So, where would you like to start?
Beginning, I guess.
Perfect. And then maybe shall we go down to? You want to go through? Ah, man, there's so much good stuff. Maybe to the cadenza. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
That's cadenza. Yeah.
All right, perfect, perfect. Do you want to do the cadenza?
Sure.
Yeah, let's just finish with the cadenza.
Sure.
Well, I mean, actually, we're a little bit short on time, so the cadenza, I mean, it
Maybe
can
half
go.
of it, or
It would say what?
maybe half of it, or something.
Yeah, yeah, half of it. Yeah. Great, bravo, bravo. Let's stop there. So, I mean, you can just play the heck out of the horn, man. Like, you just have like unbelievable chops. I know how hard this piece is. For anyone that's watching and that doesn't know this piece, it's written in E, which means that they're all these like, you know, you start first valve and you go to 2 and 3, first valve 2 and 3. It's just the most awkward combination for rotary valves, and you're just making it sound so easy. So now, like, all right, this is kind of a fun, you know, little like da 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 da, right? But as horn players, right, and especially like, you know, horn. I don't want to say horn jock in a bad way, but like, you know, sometimes like young guys, we want to be like, yo, look how much you can bench press, or like, you know, and like, check out this high note, check out this low note, right? And it's like, we always got to think music first. So what I heard sometimes was, blah. And so I want you to always think of like within the context. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So what I love is just that you have that as like a possibility. But let's save that for your cadenza when it's like, you know, when you go down to the lower notes there. And then you can show off your low register there. I don't think you really necessarily need to like plop up the lower notes. So, and then the opening, I felt like you could just be a little more operatic, right? Like, so Weber was an opera composer. Der Freischütz was, you know, one of his famous operas, and I think the opening, you could just really set us up. I loved it reminded me of a natural horn. It really reminded me of like that eerie kind of like sound on the opening of the Britain Serenade. That'd be a great piece for you to play next, by the way. Have you played it?
No. No.
Yeah, I think that's your next piece, man. So I really want a little bit more tenderness in bar 11, right? Bar 11 is like, that should be the higher point of the phrase. So if you could go there in the opening, that would be, that would be a little bit more heartfelt. Would you like to just try that opening phrase? And let's see if we can do the first 2 bars and then the second 2 bars a little bit different, and then as well as the third and like the fifth and sixth. Bravo, Tim. Bravo. That's so much more interesting when you play like that. So now it's not just about like, okay, it's piano crescendo to forte. Okay, another piano crescendo to forte. It's like now you're thinking like music. You're thinking like, okay, how you're using your imagination. How can I make this one a little bit different? What's the harmony behind this? And where's the high point of the phrase? Where am I actually going to? So always like look at the harmony and know where you're going phrasing wise based on the harmony, right? There's a really great book I would love for you to get. It's called Sound in Motion, and it's by David McGill, who is a principal bassoon of the Chicago Symphony. Every chapter is about 3 pages long, but every chapter is a music lesson, and it's a lesson in phrasing. And that's, for me, one of the ways that I learned how to phrase, is by reading this book. Lastly, okay, so we have about 2 minutes left. I'm sorry to have to cut you short. And then when we go through all these variations, so it's really easy to kind of make them sound, forget about music, right? And we always got to put music ahead of technicality. So again, plan your phrases where you're going, and on the repeat, try to do something a little bit different than the first time. So let's just go ahead and do, let's just go from A for, I guess, 16 bars or so. Tim, one more time, and let's do it with a little bit less articulation, a little bit more air. Ya-da-da-dum, sing in your head. Sing, ya-da-da-dee, ya-da-da-da-da. And if we get cut off, bravo, excellent work, okay? So just keep playing, okay? Yeah, that's so much better as far as articulation goes. And now I feel like you're really much more attached to the music and much more attached to singing. The articulation is not getting in the way of the music. It's actually kind of, helping you with your phrasing. So I think that's all the time we have for today, unfortunately. You sound fantastic. Such a pleasure to hear you. Bravo. I mean, that's a lot of hard work, man. And I wish that I could hear you again, and I can't wait to meet you in person. Thank you all for watching, and look forward to the next one, okay?
Thanks so much, David.